I know this is Darren Osmond. And the crazy thing is, he had no idea that he was basically confessing to killing his ex right there on camera for the whole world to see. Like, seriously, he was just talking to this so-called friend, not realizing that guy was actually part of this super complex undercover police operation.
Oh, no, you can't take my... Listen to me now, right? It was just like...
My missus had my son taken off of us for social services. Yeah. So I... It's wrong thing really, but I'm admitting to it now.
That confession didn't come easy. Like, not at all. It actually took police more than 10 years to finally arrest and detain the man who killed Clare Holland, and get this only after he had already slipped right through their hands once before. So, who was Clare Holland? Who exactly was Darren Osmond? And seriously, why would he so willingly admit to something like that after managing to dodge justice for over a decade? Hey guys, welcome back to Detective Mike's channel. Before we jump into today's story, I just want to ask you to drop a comment. Tell me what the weather's like, where you are, and which country you're watching from. And, of course, don't forget to like the video and hit that subscribe button. Alright, let's dive in. Welcome to Bristol, this bright, creative city in the southwest of England. It's known for its historic harbours, amazing street art, charming waterfronts, and that cool modern vibe that just makes you want to stay longer. Tourists love the mix of old architecture, live music, cosy cafes, and peaceful walks along the River Avon, and it's right here, in this beautiful city, that our Clare Holland once lived. Clare Holland, a mother of 4, had a pretty rough start in life. She bounced between her parents' homes before eventually ending up in a care home at just 16. It's not entirely clear why she was placed there, but what we do know is that during that time, she developed a serious drinking problem. And honestly, that struggle just made everything else in her life harder. Through her 20s, she kept drinking, met men who had similar issues, and ended up in relationships that were violent and fueled by alcohol. Still, Clare chose to stay with some of those abusive partners and even decided to have children with them. Things got so bad at home that social services had to step in multiple times. At least 2 of her 4 kids were temporarily taken into care because the environment was considered unsafe. By 2012 though, Clare, now in her early 30s, decided she'd had enough. She wanted to get sober, not just for herself, but to bring her children back home. She joined an alcohol recovery program, and according to social workers, even though she occasionally slipped, she was making real progress. She was also in the middle of moving into a new apartment, a fresh start, a new chapter she was truly looking forward to. But then, something, or rather, someone from her past was about to show up and completely change the course of her life. Darren Osmond, the father of Clare's youngest child. She and Darren met back in 2008 while working at a cafe, and, they clicked right away. But, just like the men before him, Darren turned out to be a violent alcoholic. Still, Clare stayed with him because, let's be real, we don't always choose who we fall in love with, right? In 2010, they had a baby. But both Darren and Clare were drinking throughout her pregnancy. Just a few weeks after the baby was born, social services stepped in and took the child into care. Here's what one of Clare's friends later said about their relationship. I remember Clare telling me they'd had a fight, but I don't even recall what started it. She said they were both drinking, and Darren hit her. She was shaking, terrified. So I asked her, "How scared of him were you?" And she said, "Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to kill me." She even told me that once he tried to strangle her, I told her, "Look, we can find you a spot in a women's shelter, it's safe there." But Clare didn't want to go. She ended up staying with a friend instead. Not long after that meeting with social services, her baby was taken from her care. 2 years later, in 2012, Clare and Darren broke up, though they still kept in touch. Their child remained with a foster family. Clare was finally trying to turn her life around, She was making big changes, trying to leave all that chaos behind. But then, ladies and gentlemen, something terrible happened, and it all went down right when her life was finally starting to get better. What happened to Clare would remain a mystery for almost 10 years. On June 7th, 2012, Clare Holland was supposed to meet her mom, Jacine, at a contact centre in downtown Bristol, England, to visit her son, the one she'd had with Darren. But when Jacine showed up, Claire never came. I waited, her mum said. She just didn't show up. Even the social worker was like, "That's not like her. It really wasn't." Claire stopped answering her phone and missed 2 more scheduled visits with her child. Her sister, Sarah, was the one who finally reported her missing. "At first," Sarah said, "I just thought maybe she got a bit of money from her housing grant, threw a little party, had a few drinks, and felt embarrassed to reach out. Things had been going so well for her, that's what I told myself. This is Beria." And that's how the investigation into the disappearance of Clare Holland began. Where could she have gone? Police had a few leads to work with. One of them was a report that Claire had been drinking at a pub in downtown Bristol on the 6th of June 2012, the night before she was supposed to see her son at the contact centre. When investigators confirmed she really had been in the city centre that day, they collected every bit of CCTV footage they could find to trace her movements. The first confirmed sighting of Claire was around 3 p.m. She withdrew £50 from an ATM inside an Asda supermarket in the Bedminster area. About 20 minutes later, she showed up at a pub called Seamus O'Donnell on Nicholas Street. For the next 3 hours, she had a few drinks, stepping out every now and then to run some errands, like at 4 p.m, she crossed the street to a store called Best One to top up her phone. Then, at 4:16 p.m, Claire called Darren Osmond. No one knows exactly what they talked about, but apparently they agreed to meet later that night at a pub called Barrel House, which back then was known as Richmond Public House. Darren worked there as a chef, by the way. Her sister later confirmed that. After that call, Claire phoned her sister just to chat and mentioned she was planning to meet Darren later that evening. Around 6:30 p.m, Claire left Seamus O'Donnell and spent about 2 hours shopping around the city centre. Then she went to another pub, the Drawbridge Public House, and stayed there until about 9:30 p.m. After that, she headed to Cis No. That would be the last confirmed sighting of Clare Holland. After that, nothing. She wasn't seen leaving the pub on camera, not even once, which was super weird. Staff later told police she stayed until closing around 11:30 p.m. From there, her trail just vanished. The plan, according to investigators, was that she would have walked about half an hour across the city to meet Darren. But here's where things got strange. When police questioned Darren, who, obviously, could have been the last person to see her, he told them, "She never showed up. I have no idea where she is. I was working all night, and when my shift ended, I just went home." And guess what? His co-workers backed up his story. So, police were stuck. There were no surveillance cameras showing Claire after she left the pub, and the guy she was supposed to meet claimed she never came. Claire's family did everything they could. They ran campaigns, put up posters, begged for leads, but as the months turned into years, their efforts slowly faded. Rumours floated around. People whispered that something must have happened to her, but that was it. There was no solid evidence she'd been kidnapped, murdered, or anything in between. Still, police quietly kept tabs on the case, checking her bank activity, monitoring her social media, hoping something, anything, would pop up. But nothing ever did, and that was the grim reality of the disappearance of Clare Holland, a heartbreaking case that seemed destined to remain unsolved. But everything was about to change in 2019.
Please.
It's not an emergency, I just wrote to your colleague. I've handed myself in.
Okay.
And I've tried to do it already today.
Handing yourself for what?
It's not a good look for me.
What do you mean it's not a good look for you?
It's not a good look for me. It's basically, it's something that was, it's murder, mate.
Pardon?
It's murder.
It's murder? So you've committed a murder?
I haven't, personally, but I know, sort of.
So you've committed a murder?
I haven't, but sort of.
Well, what do you mean, sort of?
Well, I didn't do it.
Okay, so why are you handing yourself in if you didn't do it?
Because it was my f***ing ex.
What, it was your ex that committed the murder?
No.
But I tried to hide myself into extra police station earlier on.
Yeah.
And the place was it was banged up, it was shut, but they said the officers were on patrol. I knocked on the door. I tried. I've had enough of it all now. I just want the monkey off my back.
Right, so how are you linked to the murder if it wasn't you?
They said it was my ex.
Yeah, what was your ex? You murdered your ex?
Sort of.
What's your ex called?
Oh, God. Clare Holland.
Clare Holland?
Yeah.
Okay, and what happened to Claire?
Well, I don't know exactly. I wasn't there.
Okay, so what is it that you're needing to hand yourself in for?
Well, I have tried. Don't tell me I haven't tried.
I'm trying too, but there's no... If you can't give me any details, then we have no reason to speak to you in connection to it.
I've had enough now. Look, I'm admitting to it.
All right, well, I'm...
Just put down that I did it.
Darren? Darren?
I just want to be face, mate.
What's the matter, fella? Why have you called?
Did they not tell you?
No, not massively.
Go on. Back...
Surprise me.
Surprise you, back along 5, 6, 7 years ago, I don't even know when it was now.
Yeah.
My missus had my son taken off of us.
Right.
For social services.
Yeah.
So I did the wrong thing, really, but I'm admitting to it now.
What's your partner's name? What's her name?
Clare Holland.
Clare Holland. Okay, and do you know her date of birth?
No.
No. And when was that roughly?
About 7 years ago, but
7 years ago. Where was it?
in Bristol.
In Bristol. Okay.
I didn't do it.
You didn't do it?
I didn't do it.
Okay.
I had it arranged.
Yeah.
And I won't say any more than that.
Okay.
Right. What's your first name? Daniel, is it?
Darren.
Darren.
Osmond.
Darren, just relax a minute, mate.
I've just had it up to my eyeballs, bud. I've had enough of ducking and diving and looking over my shoulder and all the rest of it. I've had enough. I just want to get it. Whatever's done's done. It's all in it. Whatever's done's done, and I can't turn back the clock. Just want to get it dealt with, innit?
You haven't told us anything.
You told us you
said
your
something over
partner
the phone,
and something happened about 7 years ago, but you haven't said anything
but you haven't
else.
said what.
I had her killed.
Right, okay. How?
I gave some money to someone and they had it done.
Right, okay.
But I can't say any name, obviously no names or numbers or anything like that.
The time is 04:26. I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything that may harm you to mention, don't mention when questioned. Something you later on in court, and then if you do say maybe good evidence. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I am going to put you in handcuffs, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, just bring your hands back to back for me. That's it, thank you very much. That's it.
Double lock.
Yeah, please stand nice and still for us. Thank you very much.
So, 9-year-old Darren Osmond, drunk out of his mind, got himself arrested after straight up confessing to killing his ex-girlfriend, Clare Holland. He said he did it because he blamed her for putting their baby into foster care. Cops held him for 2 days after the arrest and grilled him non-stop. When they asked why he did it, he just went, "I didn't. I don't even know why I called you guys," saying it was just the drunk rambling of a messed up man. And honestly, since police didn't have a single solid piece of evidence linking him to Claire's disappearance, they had no choice but to let him go pending investigation. But here's the wild part, this wasn't the first time Darren had admitted to something like that. It was just the first time he'd ever said it to the police. He'd actually confessed at least 3 times before. First, he told a woman he was dating that it was easy to kill someone and get rid of the body, just like he supposedly did with his ex. Then, he bragged to some guy at a pub that he paid someone £500 to hang the mother of his child. And the last time, sometime around 2014, He told a co-worker that he strangled Claire and dumped her body in the water down by the Southern Docks. When the guy asked why, Darren said, "A stupid woman isn't going to keep me away from my boy." After that, police officially upgraded the case from a missing person to a full-on murder investigation. So when Darren got released in 2019, detectives knew they had to figure out once and for all, were these just drunk, attention-seeking ramblings, or was he actually guilty? But even after 17 months of serious detective work, nothing stuck. Not a single shred of evidence tied him to Claire's murder. But you know how detectives are, they couldn't let it go. Something deep down told them Darren was telling the truth. So that summer, when every other lead had dried up, they made a bold move. They decided to send in an undercover operative, a guy named Paddy Harrow. His mission? To slowly gain Darren's trust and get him to spill what really happened. It was a total shot in the dark, but at that point, police had nothing to lose. Then came December 2020, the middle of the COVID pandemic. People were out of work everywhere, and Darren was no exception. One day, he wandered into a local shop, and boom, there was Paddy, pretending to be a friendly new guy in the neighborhood. He acted like he'd just moved in and wanted to meet people. Turns out, he lived only about 300 yards from Darren's place. They started chatting, and soon the topic turned to work. Darren asked if Paddy knew of any cash-in-hand gigs, and wouldn't you know it, Paddy just happened to have one. He told Darren he ran this underground clothing operation, fake designer stuff, and needed someone to help pack boxes in the warehouse. Darren was all in. Over the next few months, their work relationship turned into what looked like a genuine friendship. They watched soccer games together at Paddy's place, went for walks, hit the clubs downtown, even spent hours shooting pool. But let's be real, Paddy was there for one reason only, to get that confession. To do that, he had to seem like a hardened criminal himself, someone who'd done dark things too. Throughout their time together, they pulled off all kinds of fake crimes, like driving across the country for weapons drop-offs or drug runs. The guns and drugs were real, but the entire thing was a setup run by undercover officers. Darren even played lookout once while Paddy stole a van, one that was planted by the cops, of course. But the real turning point came when Paddy showed Darren a fake newspaper article. It told the story of a murder in Dublin back in the 82nds, and Paddy acted like he was involved in it. Darren totally bought it. He thought he was finally talking to someone who could relate, someone who understood what it meant to carry a dark secret.
I got back from work and there was 3 empty bottles of wine in the kitchen, and I went upstairs, obviously, but she woke up whilst I came in, trying to make out she was doing something. So she picked up and was starting to try and come down the stairs towards me. Where the f*** with the baby? And she said, I'm making it in his milk. So I said, you don't need to take him down the stairs to do that. Oh no, you can't take my... Listen to me now, right? Mate, I was just, it was just like, I don't know, mate, it's fucking horrible to say, but it was like rugby. And if someone's got the ball and they're doing that, I just get my arm and I go in between here. You know, and it was the same thing, I just went like that. Was that, no chance. Right, that's mine. Right? Same rugby. Disappear, get out of my face. And she wouldn't, so I just get the room, shut the door, I told her to off, go make the milk and bring it back up here. And she said she downstairs, whatever happens. She said, who drinks 3 bottles of wine?
Mate, I've done what I've done, and I've done what I did. I did what I did, done what I've done, whatever, innit? But you know, it's not something I bang on about. But even here, I'd be like that before I speak a word. I mean, I sort of pretty much assumed that you sort of knew.
So I knew that the geezer who ran the pub was going out to meet his missus that night. And then obviously I've got fucking aprons and bits and pieces to wear to do them sorts of jobs. It's all done. It was done and dusted. All the fucking work clothes burnt outside. Fucking everything's gone.
Darren Osmond ended up confessing to being involved in Clare Holland's murder not once, not twice, but 16 times. And with every new confession, the story got darker and more detailed. So what was his motive? In short, it all came down to their son. Social services had decided to move the boy out of foster care and into the custody of Clare's aunt, who lived outside of Bristol. Both parents knew about it, but the transfer happened so fast they didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. Darren completely lost it. He wrongly blamed Clare, thinking she was the one who'd handed their child over, and when he realised he wouldn't even get to see his boy one last time, something in him just snapped. That night, Clare really did show up at the pub. It's believed that when she got there, an argument broke out between her and Darren, one that spiralled completely out of control. Eventually, he strangled her. Afterward, he dismembered her body and dumped the remains in the water near the entrance to the docks.
No, I put that into someone else's note box a long time. Yeah, man. I'm just trying to in. Honestly, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think, and it you know, I'm concerned, I was at work. I finished work, I went home. I've got alibi all the way. I don't know, unless they big miracle, I don't understand how there's going to ever be, they shouldn't ever have to question me.
This is believed to be one of Darren Osmond's final confessions. He and undercover officer Paddy went on a fake weapons operation up to North Wales. This confession was the most significant of all, and the police realised that even if no other evidence surfaced, his own admissions would be enough to press charges. And they were right. Once the charges were filed, the police finally had the authority to search the pub, the place where Clare Holland's murder was most likely committed.
So this morning we rearrested a man on suspicion of the murder of Clare Holland 10 years ago. and now we're beginning specialist searching of the pub behind me. That searching we anticipate is going to last a few days.
So your press release referred to new information that sparked the search. Could you give us any indication of what that might be, what that information might be?
Yeah, so it is specific intelligence. I don't know that detail myself, but as you've seen, we've got forensic officers and specialist search officers that have begun arriving this afternoon, and it's difficult to tell exactly how long the search is going to take, but I think probably certainly today, tomorrow, maybe to the end of the week.
You said rearrest. This is the same man that was arrested in 2019.
Yeah, this is a person that we've already interviewed in connection with Claire's disappearance. That's back in custody again this morning.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I suppose the thing I'd like to add is just to reassure people that live and work in Clifton. It must be alarming to see a large number of police officers working here, but this is a case that's 10 years old now, and I've got neighbourhood officers here, so if you're worried about anything at all, please just come up and speak to a member of my team.
In August 2022, Darren Osmond was officially charged with the murder of Clare Holland. His trial was set for the following fall. Darren admitted that he had given confessions, but he kept insisting that many of them were just the ramblings of a drunk man. "I'm a drunk fool," he'd say. "Why would you confess to killing Clare Holland or disposing of her body if you didn't do it?" Honestly, no idea. That's a good question. I drank too much, tried to act like someone else, make myself seem more important, a mix of all three. I don't have any other explanation. Before the trial began, Darren's defense argued that a lot of the confessions were made under the influence of alcohol, so they shouldn't be admissible in court. Even Paddy confirmed this. But the judge ruled the evidence could be used. In the end, the jury found Darren guilty of murder. And honestly, it wasn't just the 16 confessions that did him in. The prosecution also had over 1,200 hours of video footage showing him abusing a dog, acting aggressively toward his mother, almost attacking a student during a night out, and even telling Paddy that he wanted to kill a social worker in front of her children. The jury got to see who Darren Osmond really was, a man who would kill if he thought he could get away with it. The judge sentenced him to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years.
Darren Osmond, for the moment you can remain seated. I am to sentence you today for the murder of Clare Holland. For this grave offence, there is only one sentence prescribed by law, and that is imprisonment for life. That is the sentence that I shall impose upon you in due course. However, I'm required to determine the minimum period you should serve in prison before you are eligible to be considered for release on parole. It's most important that you and everyone concerned with this case should understand what in fact this means. The minimum term is not a fixed term after which you will be automatically released, but the minimum time that you will spend in custody before your case can be considered by the parole board, and it will be for the parole board to say at that time whether or not you will be released. Clare Holland was aged 32 years at the time of her death in June 2012. It is clear from the deeply moving impact statements that I have heard and read that she was a warm and vivacious person who was deeply loved. She had experienced difficulty in her early life, but by 2012 was, in the words of her mother, starting a new chapter in her life. She had a new flat, had re-engaged with her family, and was engaged on a programme to stop drinking. She was rightly proud of herself and the efforts that she was making. She had high hopes that she would in time be able to have her children to live with her, children whose contact visits she never missed, no matter how difficult her life was at times. She was happy and optimistic about the future. You must face the consequences of your actions in the punishment that I impose upon you today. I recognise that such punishment cannot bring her back, and those who love and cherish her must live forever with her loss. For 11 long years, no one except you knew what had happened to Clare. She went missing on the night of the 6th of June 2012, never contacting her family or her children again. There was an extensive police missing persons investigation which failed to find her. You were spoken to in the course of that investigation. You could and should have told the police what had happened. You could and should have admitted that you killed Clare. You did not. You left her family with the agony of not knowing where she was or what had happened. As you sought to move on with your life, you left her family in limbo, caring for her youngest child and trying to give him and her other children answers they did not have. Yet it is clear that you could not live with the burden of what you had done. I accept the prosecution case, that you were haunted by it, and seeking to relieve the burden of what you did, you have made confessions over the years to 6 people in all. You were both drinking. But rather than care for and help Clare look after him, rather than addressing your own issues with alcohol and helping her to address hers, you were critical of and violent to her. The police were called after, I find, you threw Clare down the stairs shortly after your son's birth. She was to tell social workers she was frightened of you. I accept her account given to them that you had strangled her in the past and that she feared you may kill her. This fits not just with your attitude to Clare, but with the evidence of your character that I heard during the trial. You are, in the words of your mother who gave evidence, a vile drunk. She was vulnerable. It was late at night and she had been drinking. When you confessed to others that you killed Clare, you said to some that you strangled her, and to others that you paid for someone else to kill her. I am sure that you killed her yourself. You were living hand to mouth in a hostel and did not have the means to pay someone else to do it. By so saying, you were seeking only to distance yourself from the horror of what you had done by inserting another mystery person into the picture. For Clare's family's sake, and for the sake of your son, I urge you for once to stand up to what you have done in the very near future and to disclose what you did and where her body might be found so that she may be laid to rest. Taking into account all the aggravating and mitigating factors as exist, in my judgment, the minimum term I impose is one of 20 years imprisonment. Stand up. Darren Osmond, for the murder of Clare Holland, I sentence you to life imprisonment. You will serve a minimum term of 20 years, less the 503 days you have served on remand. Thereafter, it will be for the parole board to decide when, if ever, you should be released. If you are ever released, you will remain on licence for the rest of your life. Take him down.
And that's how the decade-long case of a missing person, which turned into the murder of Clare Holland, finally came to a close. It's hard to say which part of this story is the most shocking, but for me, it's the thought that if Darren had kept this to himself, if he'd stayed sober all those years, Clare would still be considered missing. He was literally clean. Yet, in the end, he probably decided to clear his conscience, and at least now, the family can have some sort of closure. I say some sort of, because Darren still refuses to say where he dumped Clare's body. Of course, he insists he's innocent, so he's not giving up that secret, and under the Helens law, if he doesn't reveal it, he'll never get released from prison. Simply put, if a parole board believes a criminal knows the location of a victim's body, but refuses to disclose it, they can deny him release. And with that, I'm wrapping up this video. Thanks for sticking with me. This is Detective Mike, signing off. See you next time.